Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve Podcast. Today's guest is an intuitive life coach and CEO of Freedom Love Experience, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. Her name is Kinlow. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hello, Christian. I am wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm just going to jump straight into this. Sometimes I have a little bit of a babble at the beginning because I do tend to ramble on, but I'm going to jump into this. What is an intuitive life coach?
So an intuitive life coach is a person who uses the messages that they receive from the collective consciousness, which is we call God, but I happen to believe that God is a they, not a he, a she, or it. It's a they, because it's the entire collective consciousness, meaning your spirit guides, your ancestors, all. I receive messages from them or channel from them to help you walk in your best life possible, to follow your purpose.
Okay.
So I love that. Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference between, let's say, an intuitive life coach and just a regular life coach? What the key difference is there?
So the intuitive life coach part is this. Some people call it psychic. I just happen to not like that word psychic. So I use the word messenger. So what that means is I intuitively lead you and guide you. So when you meet with me, you're going to get channeled messages, as well as, okay, this is what we can do to help your life moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when did you sort of begin, I suppose, receiving these messages? Because I'm just going to say this now. I'm not religious. I am a very open-minded person, but I'm also a skeptic at heart as well. So I'm kind of like, I don't know. I kind of like to pick and choose, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And my kind of, I suppose, philosophy on this is I wouldn't ever say that someone is necessarily not capable of doing these things. I think it's one of those things that's up for debate. But, there are people that I've met throughout the years who have claimed to have this ability. Some, I wasn't so sure they were telling the truth. And others, they would say things that would freak me out. Because they wouldn't be able to possibly know the things that they know at all. So that's when I began to start believing, maybe there's something to this. But anyway, when did you first start, I suppose, experiencing this and then understanding exactly what it is?
So I first started when I was a little girl, and I just didn't know what it was. I just knew that I knew things and didn't know how I knew them. When I was 5 years old, I was really, my parents were very big in the church. And to say what you just said, I ain't religious at all. I'm not even going to say I'm not. I ain't religious at all. I'm just spiritual. And I'm open to that. But I grew up in the church. So when I was 5, this pastor told my mom, I knew that I wanted to touch this pastor. And he said, whose little girl is this? Who's touching me? And my mom said, it's mine. I apologize. She just wanted to speak to you. He said, no. This child is gifted. This child is amazing. You don't even know the power that this child has. So that continued. And then it seems like I would get flashes of things that I would remember. My dad used to play the numbers. And in South Carolina back in the day, it wasn't legal to play the lottery or gambling, right? But he would play it, and it was in a New Age store. They had candles and voodoo dolls, if you would call it that, those things that are the spiritual guidance. And I felt comfortable. I felt like I knew all of this stuff. It just was comfortable to me. So that time continued. I would see things, I would know things, I'd tell my mom and dad things, and they'd be like, okay, yeah. And then it would happen. When I was 10, I saw what you would call Yahshua, Jesus, in the sky. So I told my grandmother that the world was coming to an end because Jesus was outside, because that's how we were taught, right? But my grandmother said, no, it's not coming to an end. That's not what's going on. That's not happening. And I said, no, he is. He's outside. He's outside. But the only person that saw that was me, right? And so my grandmother said, she told my mom, she said, listen, that baby saw something, not sure what it was. And that continued. I would see little things, I'd hear things, I'd know things. And I didn't know how I knew them. In college, I would know things, didn't know how I knew it. In high school, they thought I was crazy because they said I was always this type of person. I would always say things to them and I always knew things. It wasn't until, well, when I was 16, my dad and I called a psychic together because my father was very open. My mom was not, you know, like she's religious to the point where, no, we're not going to talk about that. You don't do those type of things because if you do that, you're going to hell. Right. So that was a bad thing. But when I was 16, my dad and I called a psychic on the 1-900 line. It was 1-900 number.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And the psychic told my dad, well, your daughter can do the exact same thing that I'm doing. She is a psychic as well. So that went on throughout all my life. It wasn't until my 40th birthday, my best friend, girlfriend at the time, but now she's my best friend. She bought me a meeting with a psychic. And he said, you know that you're supposed to be doing this, what I'm doing. This is what you're supposed to do. And I thought about it and thought about it. And I said, okay, maybe I'll try it and I'll let's see, you know. And then on 11/11/11, which was major, I've always been fascinated with numbers. I've always been fascinated with dates and things and the moon and the sun and the stars, all of that. I just felt like I was a part of it. And I went to an 11/11 event and I had my aura read. You can have your aura read, putting your hands on this little machine and your feet. Your feet are planted and they read you. So this guy read me and he was laughing. We had a good time. He said, put your hands down again. He thought maybe I didn't have my hands on there all the way. Well, I did it. And my aura was completely white with just a little bit of purple in it. And he said, oh my God, do you know who you are? Me. Yeah, I'm free. That's who I am. Because, you know, that was my name. I'm free. He said, no, you are gifted. You have a power. Well, when he said it, when the aura read it, and then when Armando, who was the psychic that I went to see, said I should be doing the same thing, I asked him, I said, so if that's the case, then show me how, because I don't know. The main thing is not trusting what you hear, what you feel. I don't know how to do this. What am I supposed to do? So we started doing something called Sunday. It was our Sunday church. It wasn't church. It was just we would get together and just talk. We go to the river. We go to the mosque and meditate, different things like that. And he just have us to read things. He gave me my first tarot deck. Well, I didn't know how to use it. I didn't know how to read that stuff. I didn't know. I was like, I don't know this. And I found out that I didn't need that. I didn't need the tarot deck. Not that anybody, I think it's beautiful when people use that. That just happens to not be my gift. I started embracing it a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And the more you do anything, you know, the more comfortable you come in it. And I just finally said, you know what? I'm embracing this. I'm going to be what I am. I started giving readings to people and they come back and say, that happened. What you told me really happened. Or I'd have dreams and I tell people you're going to have a baby or you're pregnant or da-da-da-da, you know, just different things. And it started to happen. And that's when I fully embraced it. So I can't say pinpoint. If I have to pinpoint a specific time where I really, really, really realized it, I think it would be that 11/11/11 event. Because even when the other people were saying it, I was just like, okay, I just happen to know things. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's refreshing to hear your perspective on this, because I think for a lot of people listening, they'll probably hear this and, forgive me for a second, they might hear it and think, this sounds crazy. This just sounds, you know, like lunacy.
Like a bunch of bull crap. I don't know if you can curse on here, but like a bunch
of
bull crap.
Yeah, you can say what you want. You can say what you want.
Bullshit.
and this is the thing, like, I would say maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I probably would have felt the same. I'd never like turn around and say like someone is complete full of it. Like, I think the only stuff I think in this particular sphere that is complete BS is the charlatans that exist in America and other countries too, that actually just try and scam people. That's BS. But you can normally deconstruct that pretty easily. Like, for instance, if everyone's told to fill out a questionnaire before they come in, and then suddenly they're like, you in the third row, your name is da-da-da-da, and your grandma da-da-da, and it's like, obviously that's a scam. There's a way they figured it out.
Absolutely.
And the thing for me, like, I haven't often spoke about this because it's one of those things that, you know, some people will tear you down for. But it's just beliefs at the end of the day. You believe what you believe. Like, my mind has always been open in the sense that I look at it like, you know what, none of us know for definite anything, so might as well just keep an open mind to all possibilities and just leave it at that. Just keep learning. That's kind of my approach. But what I will say on this though is that I think it's important to have, even if you are a spiritualist, because I would regard myself in the same manner as well, but I always look at things like, try to like always make sure to keep questioning everything. And for instance, like the numbers thing, like I digress. It's just I've got a lot of ideas here. What I'm trying to say in a nutshell is that I believe in these things, but I take them with a grain of salt. So for instance, if I consulted you about something and you told me this is going to happen, most likely, probably, that's how I'd take it. I wouldn't be like, this is definitely going to happen. I'd be like, this might happen. And one thing that I found really interesting from my time in Europe, when I really began to start believing in this, and I met people that were spiritually inclined and, well, psychics, if you like.
Yeah.
What my understanding of it was that they would give me like a reading on something, or they'd, you know, I'd consult with them and get advice maybe or whatever. But it was more like a collection of possibilities in that given moment, given everything, taking into account everything in my life at that situation and that point. And one thing I always paid attention to, that from the people that I would consult, is they would say, don't ask me anything long term, ask me short term things, specific, short term, let's say 3 to 6 months, something like that, and I can give you like an idea of what you can expect with that. So for example, I gave here's a really quick example just to demonstrate my point.
Yeah.
I consulted this psychic who's a family friend and everything. And years ago, I had like these aspirations of being like a professional wrestler. I love professional wrestling. And it's kind of hilarious thinking back, because I'm never going to be a wrestler, and that's okay. I don't want to be. But back then, I had like, you know, whatever, naive thoughts. And so I consulted this person. I didn't tell them anything. I just consulted them like I had a question in my head, and they gave me a reading, whatever. And their exact wording was, you are physically and mentally, like, you lack the ability to do this, but the key being the emotional side of things. And immediately I knew straight away that they were right. It was difficult to hear, but I knew what they meant. It meant that I lacked the ability to do that in that given moment. But with what I was saying before about timelines, that could change. If you put the work in and you make those changes, it can change. And I think that's the difficulty, because with everything that we're discussing here, unfortunately, like Hollywood and to a large extent, like American media has kind of destroyed like the integrity of psychics and stuff. Because I think there is a lot of truth to it, but whenever you think of psychic, you just think of like the charlatans or the...
Oh, you think of Miss Cleo. That's a lot of people think of Miss Cleo when they think of that, because she gave it a bad name. But here's the thing about the reason why they say timeline. I give people, we all have free will, right? We think that, well, it's whatever God wants me to be, but no, it's not. It's your will. God's will is your will, no matter what. It's your will. We have the ability to choose. That's what free will is. You can choose one way or another. You can go a different direction, and this is where your life will be. But you will be whatever you will to be. So it's what are you willing to be? Period. So that's how that works. That's the timeline thing. And the reason, this is my personal opinion, the reason I feel like they've given psychics a bad name is because, okay, take for example, COVID. That was written in a book that we were going to go through something like COVID. It was like, oh, no, don't believe that. That's a bunch of bull crap. That's you should never believe that. Well, it happened. So if I don't want you to know what I'm planning, or I don't want you to try to see what's going to happen in the future, then I'm going to tell you that if you listen to these people that's telling you these things, it's not real. And the truth of the matter is, we all have intuition. It's your discernment, it's your gut intuition, it's whatever. It is the person who has decided, I said yes, I will operate in this for the betterment of mankind. None of my messages are ever bad. I don't ever tell people, oh, you got to give me $250 and I'm going to take this off of you and I'm going to do this. I never do any of that. That's not my messages. My messages are always about love and what's going to make you or what's going to help you into a better place. But it's your choice as to whether or not you act upon it. All of that.
I totally agree with you on that, especially with the intuition side of things. I think ever since I moved from Europe back to the UK, I've said it before, it sounds silly, but to me, it makes sense. I sort of experienced something akin to like a spiritual awakening. And what that meant really in a nutshell was firstly, being open to these things and whatnot. But secondly, I think trusting the intuition more as opposed to just, because I feel like a lot of the time that the brain, our thoughts do guide us, but I've noticed that they tend to be very like fearful a lot of the time. Like, let's say a bad situation comes along. My first reaction is, oh no, panic. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Oh, this could happen. This could happen. This could happen. And 9 times out of 10, none of that bad stuff ever happens or will happen. It's just fear. But your intuition, like, once you calm down, like this is what I think, emotions really affect it. Like until you get your emotions in check and you're calm, you just can't do anything. That's why you
know what you call that? Putting the I before the E. You put the intelligence before the emotion. You sit with it. Your thoughts, whatever you thought about 5 years ago, chances are you're living that life now because your thoughts create things. We're co-creating this universe with the collective consciousness, period. That's what we're doing. So your thoughts create the things. The fear part of it is the ego, right? So your ego teaches you to operate in fear. Also, the news teaches you to operate in fear.
Yeah.
We automatically go to the most fearful thing that we see when something happens instead of sitting in it and saying, okay, what's the lesson here? I can turn this into something else. And it's always for your growth. It's never because, oh, you're just going to experience something bad because you just, boom, I'm going to give you bad. No, it's never that. It's always for your growth. It's about learning the lesson, changing it so that you don't have to keep repeating it, and growing into the best possible self that you can be, growing into a space of love, like what the world is shifting to now. And I talk about love a lot. That's why my business is called Freedom Love Experience, because I feel like our only purpose is to love. Now, how you give that love is different. How you show love is different. Everybody has a way that they're going to show the love, but your only purpose is love. Like yours is through interviewing people. It's getting their story out there. That's how you show love. Mine is through giving readings. Somebody else's might be through frying chicken. They might fry the best damn fried chicken in the world, you know? But that's the love that they give you. So our only true purpose is love. Now, how are we going to show that love? What's the way that I'm supposed to do that? I may be a doctor, I may be a lawyer, different ways like that, but what is the way that I show that? And just letting that fear part go.
Okay, playing devil's advocate for a second, because one of the things you said there is that you said that, you know, we definitely have free will. And I don't know that you could say that for certain, because we could maybe say that determinism is, you know, that could be the reality, but that's just one side of it. Secondly, what you're basically implying there is purpose. We've all got a specific purpose, and, you know, we, as you said, kind of communicate love in different ways through what we contribute to the world, essentially.
Absolutely.
But come on, we've met many people over the years. We meet them every single day who don't contribute anything positive. It's always negative, hateful, whatever.
But that is their part of growth. That's where they have to grow. That is their part of growth.
What if they never do? Think of like the worst.
And if they never do, there's no judgment. There's no right or no wrong. There's no good or no bad. It just is. There's an isness. There's an isness. When you do that, that creates a separation. Yes, you do have people that have done things. Yes, you do have people that have what we would call something negative. They've done something negative. But the truth of the matter is they're still a God self. They're still God. That's why it's about seeing the spirit of the person. They're still that. Now, whether they choose to operate in it in this realm or not, that's their choice. It is truly their choice. You choose which way you're going to operate. And eventually, I feel like everybody will come into that space of love. It'll awaken into that. But we have created this world. Look, you go back 2,000 years ago. We've created this world where there's division. 9 times out of 10, the only reason why somebody hurts somebody is because they have something that they want, right? Or they're looking for something that they want. If we realize that we're all one, there's no separation. We're all one being. We're all one unity. We're all one unit. We are all, look, you are God incarnated having an experience as Christian Reeve. That's who you are. And when we tap into that, this world can be the way that it's supposed to be. And it's shifting to that. It is, regardless. It's time for the change, and the change is happening. But it's about allowing that self to come forward, allowing that self to come out. Even if somebody does do a negative thing, it's a mighty bad, my mom used to say all the time, it's a mighty bad wind that can't change. Everybody has the ability to change. It's your choice.
I agree with that sentiment. It's just when you see some of the people in the world that, you know, from almost from birth to death, you know, all their life is just committing misery and doing horrible things. Like, it's hard for, as much as I want to believe what you're saying, and I want to believe in it, I just can't in those instances, because it truly seems as though certain people, when they come to this world, this realm, whatever you want to call it, it's like their sole purpose is to just hurt people and cause misery. And it's like, is there a purpose for that? Is it the yin yang thing? Is it just necessary?
There is a purpose. There is, yes, absolutely. There is a purpose to it, because guess what happens? Before people come to earth, we all make a commitment to come. We all sign a contract. We all have come from pure love, right? So before a person comes to earth, they say, okay, I'll be the one to do this crime. And when I do this, this is going to change this person, this person, this person. They're going to look at it and say, oh my God, I would never do that. So the thought process that they may have to do something, they now won't do it because they see me doing it. So I'll be the one that everybody's going to hate. Let me be that one, just because I love humanity so much, so that I can shift everybody's idea or attitude about this, that, or the other. It is all about the growth in the person. I hear you. And yes, we do have people that have come here that have done things, but all of it is necessary. All of it is necessary. They've made a choice to do that, but they still can shift into that because it's their choice. It is free will. It's their choice. We all, believe it or not, and it's so hard for people to believe that. That's why we as a society are so stuck. It's so hard for people to say, let's not even look at this person's doing wrong, this person's doing bad. Let's just look at we are all love. Let's look at that. And we're all pure divine love. When people take that away from judging people or shunning people or saying, you know what, you're evil, you're mean, you're this, you're that, and the other, and we just love them, we can shift all of this stuff. I know it's hard to believe, but I promise you, we are all that. We are all that.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one. I think it's one of those ones that I would have to disagree with you on, just purely because, like, I've heard the theory actually that you're discussing before. I've heard other people say that, and it's funny, some of the things you've said, I've heard them from different people in my life, and it's just fun, like almost exact wording as well.
You'll believe it eventually. Give it enough time. I guarantee
don't know, though,
in about 3 years from now, you will be like, oh my gosh, they were right.
See, the problem is, though,
at a different point.
The problem is that I have with it is that, like, I understand in as a concept, I get it, but like at the same time, it just seems crazy to think that we would agree to then come onto a world together where such pain and misery is inflicted on others, expressly for the purpose of teaching each other lessons, which in theory we would already know, because, I mean, if you look at it from the perspective of we are all knowing in the universe kind of thing.
We are all knowing, but remember, we've dumbed ourselves down to come to earth. So we've forgotten everything.
But then what's
remembering.
What's the point, in a sense? If we know everything, what's the point of them becoming life
remembering the point of shifting, the point of having that, the point that we invite contrast into our lives just so that we can make it better. That's what it is. It's just about remembering. And when we start to remember, it'll change a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. Now, it may not happen completely in my whole lifespan, right? But I know that it started. I know that. I know that people are waking up to it. I know that there's no more separation. We're starting to realize that we're not separate. There's no black, no white, no rich, no poor, no none of that. It shouldn't be. We're all one. And if we can get to that point, then we as a collective consciousness will evolve, will change completely. And we will eventually get there. But in 3 years from now, your thought process is going to be different. Watch, see what I tell you. You're going to go back to this interview and be like, well, I'll be damned.
You never know. You never know. I just hope my life gets better. That's the main thing I'm hoping.
It's already done. What do you want? It's your will. Remember what I said? It's your will. You will be what you're willing to be.
I will be super rich and super famous and super successful. I will be super rich.
But this is what I do see. I can tell you this. I can see that you will have what it is that you desire. Don't focus on being super rich, super famous.
Yeah, I know.
Just focus on giving it love. But I can tell you this. I see your audience expanding. I see you expanding like tremendously.
You never know.
Really
you never know.
Yeah.
Do you know, I'll tell you one thing actually that's changed recently, which I think is positive for me, is that I've been doing a lot of things. I don't just do podcasting. I do like acting and music, etc. But in the sphere of this online stuff, naturally it always becomes, and everyone will suffer from this at some point, of being obsessed with numbers and how things perform. You know, I come from a business background.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I look at it and I'm like, oh, it's not going anywhere. Why is it not going anywhere? But I think the problem with obsessing over that was it actually damaged my approach to it and my feeling about it and such. And now I've kind of just brought it back to square one a little bit. Like, I'm still working hard, probably harder than I've ever worked. But my mindset is, I'm just going to try and create the best thing I can create possible and just see what happens.
And that's why you're going to grow. When you take all of that out of it.
Yeah.
All you're supposed to do, it was a movie out. I think it's Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. That was one of the famous lines in the movie. That's the truth. If you build it, they will come. Let me tell you, like literally, I was doing readings for people. I never advertised. I would do it. It was all word of mouth because I wasn't ready to be put out there. Right. Wow. All of a sudden, it came up that somebody was looking for a psychic, this particular television show. This was in 2019. I submitted my headshot. I just said, okay, we'll just see what happens. Literally, fast forward, November of last year, my show, Down South Spirit, premiered on TLC, which then in turn took the crowd to like crazy. I never even really used to charge people. I would tell them, give me a love offering. When I did something for them, gave them a reading, I never, because I felt like it was a gift. And I just wanted to bless people with it. I wanted people to grow in it and grow in it. And everybody was like, yeah, but your gifts are your profits. You have to charge for stuff. But I didn't want to. I wanted to just give it away. I had to get to the point where I was okay with charging people because I just was uncomfortable with it, right? And that was something within me. That was me having to get that part of me. Where is it that I'm uncomfortable with that? But I felt like it's a gift. So I didn't care about the numbers. I didn't care about how many people. When somebody would call, somebody said, I got your number from this person. I got your number from that person. I got your number from this person. Okay. And it just kind of grew from there. I wasn't pushing for it. What I knew was I wanted to be able to use my gift to help this world. That's all I knew. As a little girl, I used to say, God, allow me to see the world through your eyes. As a little girl, I always wanted to see the world through God's eyes. I always wanted to love on people. They would always say, my family would say, I pick up friends like stray dogs when I was a little girl.
Yeah.
I did, because I wanted to love everybody. I wanted everybody to love. I didn't want anybody to, and I've been that way all my life. So my personality, my everything is the same. I always just wanted to help people. I wanted them to realize that love is amazing, that we are amazing, that you are amazing, and we're here to have a good time. And I've been that way since I was little, a little girl. You know, I had friends that didn't like each other, but I would put us all together, even though I know they didn't care about each other. And we'd all play together. Come on, let's all play in the sandbox together. I've been that way. So I'm so very big on you and you saying about the numbers and things like that, because that doesn't matter. All you have to do is do it, and you let everything else fall into place. That's why I'm telling you, I know that you're getting ready to grow. I see you expanding. I see you expanding.
You never know. You never know. But this is about you. This podcast is about you. And I've got so many questions, so I'm going to do my best to try and, you know what I mean? Sometimes every once in a while, a podcast sort of takes you by surprise. And this is definitely one of them. in a good way. But yeah, one thing I want to ask is like because look, the path that you're on, like as a spiritualist, like I've met people like yourself before, and it almost in some ways feels like you're living, like I say the same thing about life as well. I've always said that I consider myself as living two different lives. There's the life of, as you expressed it, like the individual consciousness expressed as a, you know, whatever, I pay my bills, taxes, you know, that person. And then there's the real you, the spiritual you, the why we're here, you know, the person you are when you go for a walk and you're like, why am I here? What is the purpose of all this? Two different lives. But inevitably, we need to work, we need to earn money to earn a living and, you know, live and stuff. So I guess I've got like a twofold question. Like, how have you kind of kept going like all the years as far as like have you had like regular jobs, or have you always done this?
Oh yeah, no baby, yeah, I had regular jobs, a lot of regular jobs.
Okay.
Well, I won't say a lot. My very last job was at Bank of America. So I used to be a proficiency coach at Bank of America. And okay. I worked for Bank of America for 6 years. Prior to that, I worked for Verizon Wireless for 9 years. So I've had regular jobs because I am a spiritual being having a human experience. And in the human world, I have to pay things, I have to do things.
But didn't you like feel a bit like what is the point of me doing that? Like, I understand I have to do this to earn money, but like knowing that you should be like the sort of person helping people on a spiritual journey and doing what you're doing now, which we'll get to, by the way. But like now it makes sense. You've set up a whole company that's like surrounded, you know, related to what you're doing. You figured out ways to kind of monetize that and stuff and etc. Right? But like before that, when it's just, I'm going to my job to do this, you know, like we've all been there, you know, when you get like a soul crushing job or whatever. But it must be especially difficult for you, given that, you know, there's this thing that you really should be doing with your life, right, but then you're spending the time helping people with their accounts at the bank or whatever, you know.
So here's the thing with me. Give you an example of Bank of America. Even though I was at the bank, I still was operating in me. I didn't change me. So okay. The people who would work at the bank with me, they would come and they would talk to me and I'd give them a message. And, you know, I still was operating in it. And I just knew, I would say, okay, look, God, this is what I want to do. I'm telling you guys, collective consciousness, ancestors, I want to be able to do this full time. I don't want to have to always be in this bank. I don't want to have to worry about this. I've said yes. I committed to doing this, you know, but it didn't stop me from being who I was. I had a supervisor who said she was scared of me. She didn't like for me to look at her because she said she felt like I was looking through her soul. And I said, well, my question is, well, what's in your soul that you're trying to hide? You know? But I would scare her.
Yeah.
Like literally, she was scared of me. She was like, she just makes me nervous. She scares me. Sometimes I say stuff to people at work and they'd be like, you just made me tingle. Or they would start crying. You know, so I still did that. I had one who, my first supervisor who was over the team, right? Because we were in like the call center for Bank of America where I worked. And she said, and I would even give them messages. One of them, she said, They would always ask me, how you doing today? How you doing? And I said, I'm great. I'm wonderful. I'm awesome. I'm fantastic. So one of them asked me, she said, now, how in the hell you so damn good and great every day? This is a supervisor. And I said, because it's a choice that I make. I choose that this day is going to be good for me. I choose it's going to be all right. She said, when I said that, it changed her whole life, because your day is how you think about it. So she started saying, today I choose to have a great day. Today is a great day. It changed. I told her she was going to move to another department. She did. I told her all these things were going to happen. She did. And so a lot of the supervisors and things are like, the world needs to, you're touching people here and you're talking to people here, but the world needs to hear you. So how I felt was, whomever it is that I'm supposed to reach here first, I will. And when my time is over here, I'll move on. And guess what? I just recently resigned from the bank. I was still working at the bank when I did the TV show. I still was employed by the bank. I just recently resigned because I felt like I knew that whenever my mission is done there, I'll move on. It's also about the synchronicities and how things happen. Before the bank, I was a trainer for Michael Kors. I would teach people how to sell Michael Kors stuff over the phone. And I woke up one day and I said, this is not a job for me. I can't do it. And I quit. I had nothing else. People say I got crazy faith. Call it what you want to. But I said, this ain't it. And I didn't know how I was going to pay my bills or nothing. But I just knew that this was not where I wanted to be, because I didn't like some of the practices. And within that next day, a friend called, someone who I met at Michael Kors. She had left Michael Kors, was doing something totally different. She said, hey, my cousin said this place is hiring. You should call them. I submitted my application. My mom was going through breast cancer. I went home to be with her. I had the interview for the job that I was supposed to meet in person with them to do the interview. I missed the interview time because I thought it said one time, but it was at 9:15. I thought it said 12:15. I didn't get there at 12:15, which meant I missed it. You know what they said? The recruiter, it's okay, we got you coming in. Can you come back tomorrow? Now, no job does that. I went back the next day, boom, got in there with no problem. I was in there. Within 5 days, I was in there on the job. So I knew it's about paying attention as to why you're doing certain things. I had started to recognize things happen for a reason. I know it's a synchronicity. I know that this happens because this is supposed to happen. That happens because that's supposed to happen. So I just go with it. I let go. That's the true meaning of letting go and letting God, and know that you're going to be guided in the way that you're supposed to be. Okay. So I was at the bank I started 2015. What's this? 2022. I just resigned. So
amazing.
Yeah, I just let it be. I realize, because you can't change the fact that you are having a human experience. I get pissed off at people sometimes too. I want to cuss people out. You know what I mean? Like, I get angry. I get upset.
Sure.
I drink a glass of wine. I got a little bit of wine right now, and it's early morning. I drink a glass of wine. You know what I mean? But the thing is, I know that I am first a spiritual being, but I'm having a human experience. So how do I separate the two? Realizing that I have to operate on the human realm, but focusing and striving more and more every day to lean completely. I just did, and I know this probably has nothing to do with your question, but I'm going to say this to you. I just did, in November, I did an ayahuasca experience. And in doing the ayahuasca, I went through what you call a soul merger, where your higher self soul merges back to the ego self. And that's where you're starting to let the higher self be more focused than the ego self. The ego self is what stops us from doing a lot of things. The ego self says, well, I got to work this job because I got to make this payment, and nobody's going to believe me, and nobody's going to listen to me, and I don't really have that many followers. I don't have all of this going on. The ego self is what causes us to operate out of fear. The higher self is what says, just let go and know that all is well, and you're going to be taken care of. And I'm learning, it's still a process. I'm remembering how to allow the higher self to take over.
I learned this lesson in the last couple of years as well. And it all goes back to what you said about not being afraid. That's hard. It is very hard. Like
it is.
for me, it was a job I had when I was in Europe that I began to loathe. And it was interesting because originally the job I loved the job. And then I got promotion, things changed, people changed. And it began to, I hated it. I hated being there. I felt miserable. I dreaded it is the word I would use. And things weren't easy then, financially, in every different way. But I just couldn't take it. And I spoke to a few people around me and I said, should I quit this job? Like, I feel like I need to. And so I did. And I quit it without having a job to go to, which is very, I wouldn't recommend it. However, if I'd have stayed there with everything as it was, I know that it would have got 100 times worse. And I think I was unemployed for about a month, and then I found something afterwards, and I was very lucky to find what I did. But I remember an overwhelming sense of relief. And then and the reason I bring this up, it was the beginning of me personally doing the same thing that you do, where you you let go. Like, you never stop being afraid when you have to take these leaps and these jumps and it doesn't seem logical, and the first thing that people will say to you is, but what about this, what are you going to do? And it's like, that's
their fear. They're pushing it on, projecting it onto you.
It's valid because it's probably going through your own head as well. But it's like, you just have to believe, as crazy as it sounds, in the process. Like, you just know that it's going to be okay. Like, something will always work out. And it does. But I will say this, I think it's important that you're always doing things, and you can't just sit and expect things to fall on your lap.
Absolutely. You got to do the work.
You got like, if you're unemployed, keep looking for jobs. Don't get perturbed. Yeah, you'll get a bunch of rejections. And then you'll find something, and then it'll be great, and you'll be very happy.
Or if you're supposed to start your own. It's the time to do it. So I'm going to tell you why, and this is just for anybody who's going through that. That job was no longer resonating with your soul. That meant that your time had passed there. That meant that what you were supposed to do there, you had already done. Whatever it was that you were supposed to learn there, or whoever it was that you were supposed to meet there or talk to, you had already done that.
Sure.
So what happens is, if you had not have moved, they would have moved you. Something would have happened where it would cause it to shake up, right? Because it's just automatic. It's automatic that we have to start listening and pay attention. Listen to your soul and tell the ego, here, ego, sit right here on my shoulder. I know you're here. Sit right here, but we're going to have to move past this.
It's funny that you say that, because it's something that I left out, but you basically said it. I left that job because I wasn't happy, and I knew it was the right thing to do. But I also knew that if I'd stick around, they would fire me. I just knew it. And because how things were going, it's not that I deserved it, but it was just the way they were, the way the company was, etc. And I knew, I was like, if I stay here any longer, they will find a way to fire me. So I'm just going to leave now. And then I did.
Absolutely. That's because you listen. Yay! You felt it. You listen and you move. That's what I'm talking about.
No, but it in all seriousness, like, it is tricky. I think it's you got to be sensible, but you got to trust yourself and your intuition at the same time. Like, try and have a plan. Like, one thing I always try to do is with work and money and things like that, is try to just have lots of revenue streams, just in case. Try to spread yourself in different ways, and it just makes your life easier. But like, don't stick around somewhere because you're afraid. Like, if you hate what you're doing, get out of that situation, because it's only going to get worse. And as you say, like, you'll get pushed to a point. Like, it's almost like, and it's funny, like, I've heard of people over the years, like, saying, like, sometimes, the best thing that happened to me was when I was fired. And it's like, they should have left that position. They hated it. They should have, but they got fired, and it wouldn't have been their fault. They just got fired because it was their time. And eventually, it's things
Fear makes you want to stay where you are because you are reliant upon that job as your source.
Yeah.
You're reliant upon that job as your income. Like, and I'm not saying whether I am for or against, but like with people with the vaccinations, they're getting fired. Some people are only getting the vaccinations because they feel they don't want to get fired.
Sure.
But they're definitely afraid. They don't want to do it. They feel miserable that they did it. It's against everything that they believe in. No, if it's against what you believe in, then why are you doing it? Just like you got that one, there'll be something for you. You'll be okay. But people are so afraid until they just, I got to do it.
That's a hard one, isn't it? In life, like feeling like you're backed into a corner. Like, I've been there many times, and it's only really a recent lesson I've learned over the last couple of years. And for anyone that's listening, just be brave, don't be afraid, and it'll all be okay, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you mentioned that you were on TLC's Down South. Is it Down South Spirit? Is that correct?
Yes, that's the name of it.
I'm intrigued. What was your kind of thoughts on this experience? Because, you know, I've dealt with television. I've seen behind the scenes as well, and it's it can be ugly. It can be interesting. I mean, this is essentially reality TV in a sense, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. It is full reality TV.
What was your perception of it like? Because you seem like a person that, you know, you don't have problems with ego. You don't have problems with any of this sort of BS. So like, you're looking at this with a calm mind, right? Like, what was your perception?
I am. So for me, it was absolutely amazing. So prior to doing that, what I was I am an actress. I would do acting as well.
Oh, cool.
But for me, so my gift is reading, but my hobby is acting. Well, I asked for it. I said, God, I want to be able to be on TV, but be me. I want to do what I do. And it took 3 years from me saying that it happened. I want to do that. So when I got into it, it's not, none of it was scripted. Like nothing that we did was scripted. It was all off the cuff. They just let me talk. First off, I have the most amazing production team that found me, that helped, you know, produce my show and did all of this. Is Pie Town Productions. Absolutely amazing. It was beautiful working with them, and they listened to what I said. Even with TLC, I have to say, because I didn't like, at first the show was called Down South Psychic. Well, because everybody knows I don't like that name. I told them, I said, I'm very uncomfortable with that. I didn't like it. Well, TLC changed the name to Spirit, right? So it was beautiful that happened. And like it made it seamless. The only part of it where I found myself in tears. I have locks. I have red locks, right? And so because when you first meet me, people know there's something that's different about me. They just automatically feel it. They see it. And then I'm this chick with red locks, you know, and it's fiery red. And people are like, whoo. Well, TLC wanted me to look like the girl next door, not necessarily like, you know, the hokey pokey, the scary one. They wanted to be able to market me with everybody, because maybe everybody wouldn't watch a woman with these red locks in her hair, you know. So I had to put on a wig. Well, I always said that I didn't want to lose myself. They had me with a wig on. I always said I wanted to always be me and be true to myself. So in that moment, I felt like I wasn't being true to myself because I couldn't show my locks. But what I had to do was put the intelligence before the emotion, because I was still doing me. It's just that my hair was looking different. You know, that was surface. That was on the outside. That didn't change what I was giving. It didn't change the message. It didn't change how I gave the message. None of that. So once I put the I before the E and silenced the ego part, said, they tried to change you. You said you wouldn't let nobody change you. And I let that go, right? And I said, okay, here's the thing. I'm going to do this, but I'm still going to, on my page, I have my red locks. People know that I have locks. It's going to be okay. This is the I before the E. And once I did that, I got okay. But it was we didn't have, like, my set was, we had 3 different sets because we did 3 different tapings, right? So one was almost 2 weeks. The other one was 2 days. And then the next one was 4 days. Each one that I did, it was absolutely beautiful. It was so much love, so much. It was just fun. We just had a good time. My production team, every camera person, every producer. I mean, I love them. You know, they love me. We all still keep in touch with each other. because that's just how it was. So I was one of the blessed ones to say. And then they didn't try to make me be messy. They didn't try to make anybody, even my brother, because my brother and my mom's on the show. And my brother talks about, my brother's an apostle in the church. So, you know, psychics and things like that is definitely not what he's dealing with, right? And, but even in that, they didn't portray it in a messy way. They portrayed it as in, she's still my sister. I love her. I don't agree with what she does. My mama was like, well, I don't talk about stuff like that. That's it. But it didn't change, you know, the love that they could feel from us. It wasn't messy. It wasn't a fight. Nobody was having us fight. It was just a pure show. It was truly, truly my family. And they portrayed us in a true, real light. So I have to say that my production team in TLC, it was amazing. You know, my experience was beautiful in it. Completely. I did a lot of readings. I was tired in doing a lot of readings because when you do readings like that, it's draining. It's pulling a lot of energy. So I was extremely tired. I had to take a week off for myself just to get myself back together. But it was beautiful. So
that's awesome. It's nice. It's refreshing to hear like a positive experience for a change, because TV can be and movies can be very hit and miss, and you often hear about bad stuff behind the scenes, particularly with reality TV. So it's good to hear that. Yeah. Moving it to your business, did the show sort of help you from a business standpoint? Did it help you kind of get more traction?
Yes. Listen, when the show aired, I don't think I was prepared for what was getting ready to happen, right? After the show aired, oh my God, I got like 1,000 requests for readings. I was like, woo, I got all these friends. I'll tell you, just for an example, and that's a number, I can base it off of this number here. I think I had 1,300 followers before the show aired in November. I'm now up to almost 5,000. So it was just like boom, 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 boom. And it was overwhelming for me. I was like, whoo. I wasn't expecting that. So it was me having to put these people in and fill them in. And you know, like prior to, I may do 2 readings a day, or I may have done like 3, and then I may skip a couple of days. Well, it's been nonstop. I had to set it to say, these are my days off. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, my days off. And I still end up sometimes doing readings on Saturdays when a person, let's say they work throughout the week, because I stop at 6 o'clock. They work throughout the week. So on the Saturday, I would work them in. And then I have to do some people on Monday, right? Which I'll do that. And then I have my regular clients that have been my clients forever. Well, guess what? I'm not going to put them down because they've been with me forever. So I have to try to work them in as well. So sometimes I end up doing them on a Sunday or a Monday, because that's just, you know, how it ends up. So yes, my life has changed like drastically. And then I've met a lot of clients who, there's a lot of people out there who have gifts and they're just so afraid to operate in them, or they don't know how. Even if it's not afraid, they just don't know what the first step is to operate in that gift. So I'm now doing something every other Sunday called Freedom Sunday, and it's free. And we log on to Zoom for an hour, and we do things to help develop the gifts, because I feel like I want to give back, because someone did that for me. Armando did that for me, and he didn't charge me anything, right? So I feel like it's only right for me to also give that back. So I have like 13 people who come on, and we do meditation exercises, breathing exercises. We talk about, how do you feel? What did you see? Learning how to just lean into that and not being afraid. There's no judgment there. It doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. Just breathe, relax, and do it. And I'm helping them to cultivate their gifts. So even if I'm taking Sundays off, I'm still doing the Freedom Sundays. You know, so I do that every other Sunday now, because I feel like I'm supposed to, and I want to.
So what kind of like the key tips you find yourself sort of giving to people who are just getting into, or I don't know, honing their skills, let's say, or trying to become a better psychic, maybe just beginning? Like what are the key tips that you tend to give?
First thing I tell them is to trust themselves. Just trust what you're hearing. Lean into it. And if you're not sure, ask. Show me where this is me and this is you speaking to me. Because sometimes we have our own thoughts about things, and that can sometimes cloud your judgment about what you're telling someone else. If you're in a relationship with somebody and your relationship is not going good because you caught your person cheating, this person comes to you and you want to say something to them, well, you're going to feel like, well, that's probably because he's cheating. Well, is that you talking because of what you're going through? Or is that a message that you see and feel for someone? So learning how to separate yourself. So I tell them to trust themselves. If you're not sure where it's coming from, ask. Right? All we have to do is ask. Everything is for hours for the asking. Right? I also tell them to breathe. One of the main things that we don't realize, breathing is so very important. There's different breaths. You have a full conscious breath, which I learned from Iyanla Vanzant. Love her, by the way. I learned that from her. The full conscious breath, where you breathe in for a count of 4, you hold for a count of 7, and you release for a count of 8. And that just connects you a little bit higher. And then there's the infinity breath, where your breath is like the infinity symbol, right? So I tell them to breathe. You have to learn how to breathe correctly. Our breath, even if you're not religious, even if you're an atheist, doesn't matter. The truth of the matter is we all agree on one thing. It's all stated across the board, and God blew breath in the body. So if God blew breath in the body, what is your breath? Your breath is God's breath. So stop, breathe, and let go. The reason that breathing is very big. I do a lot of breathing with them. I tell them about breathing. But even if we are upset, when somebody's angry or mad, their breathing changes because they're mad. But if you stop, slow down, and just take your breath, sit in it for a moment, that brings you back to center. That balances you, that allows your chakras to come in alignment. They can't be in alignment if your breathing is out of whack. And we really don't breathe correctly. So that is something that I push heavy. When I did ayahuasca, doing an ayahuasca journey, I had a very profound, like I love Mother Aya, and that's what I call her, Mother Aya. It was amazing, an amazing experience. And one of the main things that they tell you when you're doing ayahuasca is to breathe. Well, I went through what we call a soul merger, where my soul was merged back. And in that, you have to remember to breathe, because breathing makes it easy. It even lets you think correctly. A lot of the problems we have, headaches and things, is because we're not getting enough oxygen to the brain. So stop, breathe, sit in it for a minute. It's okay not to respond right away. What do you feel? And then go with your first thought. Learn how to not second guess yourself. Tell the ego to sit down for a minute and just let go and breathe. And because I give them everybody in there is developing, and I let them know it doesn't matter that I'm already doing this. We're all still learning. This is still a process, right? We're all still learning. And I teach them to pay attention to everything. Like if somebody has something going on in their body, I feel it in my body. That's how I know what's going on. I've learned how they speak to me in different ways. Like if I see a red bird outside, that may be a symbol for something else. If I see a particular number, if I see a number 5 pop up, that tells me that there's a lot of change coming for this person, because 5 is the number of change. It's also the number of grace and favor, depending on where you are. So I see that, and I'm teaching them to recognize everything as a message. There's a message in everything. And it's about learning to pay attention to those things, learning to breathe, sit with it, trust yourself, and go with your first thought. And that's what I tell people first. And I've helped a lot of people prior to this class. I have a lot of mentees People who are developing their gifts, I have a lot of them, and they're operating in total different place. I have one of my mentees. When I first met her, she lived in Atlanta, but then she moved away to Bali. And she would get almost in pain when the messages would come, and she hated it. Now she's relaxing. The pain is not the same, because that was herself fighting it. You know, I have some people who would see spirits because it scared them so much, they shut it off. But now they're ready. So for them, I tell them, go back to that little girl that saw that spirit the first time you saw it. Let her know that it's okay. Give her permission. Give her permission to open herself up. Tell her that it's okay, that you love her. She did a great job, and it's all right to let go. And as I do that, it just kind of opens them up. It gives them confidence and lets them know that it's okay. That's what I do.
You think spirits are actually like beings, or is it just like a leftover energy echoes? Like, what's your opinion on what spirits actually are?
I think spirits are beings. Some of them are beings that have been on the earth. Some of them are not. I've seen beings that they've never been on the earth. They're in other realms. Like, I speak to people from different realms of things. I've had, to answer your question, I think they're all beings. I don't think it's leftover energy, because they still speak, they talk to you. Energy is never left over, because energy never dies.
Mm.
So it's never left over. The shell is gone. And sometimes when they come to you, my mom transitioned January 14th of this year. My mom passed away.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, because she is pure consciousness and she's happy. But she's been to see me several different times, right? And when she first came, she came what I remembered, and then she came again, and she looked she's just beautiful. Just to say, I'm here, I love you. You know, it's all different. I've seen a being. In one instance, I got caught up. Fairies come to me, all kind of things come to me, right? So there's a lot of things out there that if you were to see them in the physical eye right now, if you're not ready, it would scare the shit out of you. That's the truth. Because I did get scared with one of them, because I didn't know. I thought he was trying to get me, but it wasn't. So what happened in this particular thing, I went to this place, another realm. It wasn't here. It was another dimension. And it was these two girls, and they were the king's daughters, right? And it was really big, and everybody was around, but the little girls were talking very loud. And they were pretty little girls, but they didn't look human, but they looked different, but they didn't look human, but they looked like I could recognize them as little girls. And I kept saying, why are they talking so loud? So in that moment, I said, oh, you're talking loud because you can't hear. You're deaf, which is making you talk loud. So what I did in this is I did my hands, and I put my hands on them, and I healed their hearing. Well, when I healed their hearing, the king, of course, was happy. Now, I had to get to my daughter's graduation the next day. So I'm like, okay, I got to get back. I got to get to my daughter's graduation. I have to get back. So this fairy came to get me and was like, okay, I'll get you back. I'm getting on this little motorcycle thing, and I'm like, oh my God, you don't have no handles or no nothing. How am I supposed to? I'm going to fall off. And she said, no, you'll be fine. We started going so fast. And as we were going through all these things. I saw angels wrestling. I thought the angels were fighting with each other, but they weren't. They were fighting something for someone else. It was something that someone else was dealing with. I saw all kind of things that looked scary. I saw elephants that didn't look like elephants. I saw half beings. But what was the scariest thing to me was looked like a giant cyclops running behind me. And he was huge. He had one arm and like a half of arm, but it wasn't even an arm. And he was, oh my God, like as big as the biggest tree that you could see. And as fast as we were going, he was walking, and he was keeping up with us. And I kept looking back, and I'm like, oh my God, he gonna get me, he gonna get me. I was so scared. But when he finally caught up to me, he wasn't trying to harm me at all. He wanted to tell me thank you, because those was his sisters. He said, my family, they don't embrace me because I look different and I came out different. And so they hide me. but I just wanted to tell you, thank you for healing my sisters. He said, I'm very gentle and I'm loving, and people are so afraid of me, but I'm not mean at all. And I said, you're welcome. And I woke up. But I know that that happened for real. That was me going to a different realm for real. I travel at night, you know, and I've seen all kind of things. But it's things that if we were aware of what's going on around us, it would scare the shit out of us.
How can you say it's for real, for definite? Like,
because I feel it. I know. I'm a lucid dreamer, which means I'm in control of. I've learned how to be in control of my dreams. I get messages in my dreams. I've seen all kind of things. I've been given an equation in my dream. I want to find a mathematician to show me what this means, or someone who does equations, or whenever it's time, I guess I'll know what it means. But I've been given an equation. I know it means something in my dream, and I wrote it down. Nikola Tesla's been to visit me in my dream. Before anybody was saying anything about the 369 theory, he came to me. I didn't even know nothing about no 369 or none of that, because I wasn't into that part of it. He told me about the 3, the 6, and the 9 theory. He told me to write it 3 times, 6 times a day for 9 days. This is before anybody was saying anything about it. I woke up and I said, okay, and it was Tesla. Now, the ironic thing is my father was a master electrician. He has since then transitioned too, but he wasn't a master electrician. My father was a genius when it came to electricity and doing things like this, right? So when Tesla came to me and said this to me in my dream, I said, okay, I'm gonna try it. Well, what he told me to do, what I wrote happened. I wrote it, I got up, I did it at 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, in noon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 6 in the evening, and 9 at night. Those were my 6 times. And I did this for 9 days straight. And I wrote one thing 3 times. And that's what came to me. I knew nothing about Tesla saying do that. I knew nothing about all of that. I knew none of that. After I did it, and because he came to me, I said, let me just kind of research him. I started doing research on Tesla. And who came to me was the actual person. And then I started seeing the 369 theory. And I was like, yo. Now, sometimes when I see the 369 theory, I've seen only a couple of people say it the same way that I have. Most people say you write it for 3 days. You write it 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, and 9 times at night. But that's not what he gave me. And all of it, I'm sure will work. I can only speak for what I did and what worked for me. And what I wrote actually came to pass, actually did it. It was about me manifesting what I wanted and knowing what the 3, the 6, and the 9 means, how important it is for this universe. So I have come to a space, and I've dreamt all my life. I would dream all the time. I wake up and say, I dreamt that this was getting ready to happen. And sure enough, it would happen. I would say, I had a dream about you, and sure enough, it would happen. I even have conversations with the person's spirit in my dream. I can talk to your spirit in my dream, right? So I have, like, when people can't speak in the physical, your soul is so strong and so powerful. It can speak during that time. My son, before my son went to prison, I saw it. I told him what was going to happen. I didn't know what he was going to go for, but I knew. And I said, I don't know what you're doing in that car, but you got to stop. Well, sure enough, he got arrested. And it was all because of what he was doing in the car. But I told him this 3 weeks before he got arrested. So then when my son went to prison, he's out now, but when he went to prison, I would talk to him. I would say, hey, call me because I need to tell you something. 5 minutes later, my phone would ring and I said, did you hear me talking to you? I can call my daughter. I can say, Leandra. And she'll come like, Mama, did you call me? But not in the physical. So we are so powerful as beings, as spiritual beings. We just only operate a little bit of where we're supposed to operate. But it is about learning how to operate in that, recognizing to operate in that, and we can make all kind of things happen. We're supposed to. We have rights to it. It is our birthright. It is our inheritance. We're supposed to be able to do that. There's nothing different between us and Jesus. We make Jesus out to be this for soul. He's this, that, or the other. He was a regular human being. And funny story, when I was a little girl, I used to tell my mama that Jesus was my granddaddy. I said, no, I know him. That's my granddaddy. And I literally would say that. And I've said it throughout. So I'm not sure where I am on the bloodline, but I know that I know that I'm related to Jesus. I know that I am. I know that we're in that same bloodline. He was a regular human being. Mary wasn't a virgin. Mary just had a pure heart. But because we have been taught different, we've been taught that we are meek, lowly souls, that we have no power, that we have to rely on this, we have to rely on that in order to have what we want. We're just starting, some people are just starting to wake up to that. And when you hear a person say something like that, people think they're crazy. They think I'm crazy all the time, and I really don't give a shit. You can call me whatever you want to call me. You know, I'm okay with being crazy because I know what's working for me, and I know what I see, and I know what I know. Simple as that. I know what I know, period. So, yeah.
Oh, that's a lot to take in. It also kind of,
baby, I'm a lot. I'm a lot, sugar. I'm a lot. I ain't even gonna lie to you. I'm a lot, but I'm a lot because I said yes. And it means that you have to be okay with people thinking that you're crazy. And you have to be.
I think there's something to that, actually, to be fair. And I think that whatever you choose to do, like, for example, wanting to be liked by everyone is a big one. You know, like I can't remember who I saw say it, but there's a famous quote out there on some celebrity, and it's like, you know, if you've got people that hate you, you're doing something right. I mean, I always look at it like, if the majority of people hate you, then it's probably something you need to fix.
Right.
But if it's just
you're the only common denominator, I call it the common denominator, and all of that is you.
It's true. But like, you know, you're always going to have detractors, people that disagree with you, people that try and tear you down, whatever, especially when you're trying to achieve things. When I look at things I do online, you know, I get like a lot of online hate, for example, a lot of negativity here and there. It's obviously outweighed by the overwhelming positivity of people that are really supportive. But yeah, you get those people that creep through here and there. And when you sit down and you think about their intentions, a lot of the time I just kind of go, whatever. It's just like, who do I care? I don't care about these people. It's mostly not even like actual constructive stuff that you could use. It's just like,
it's just hate that they're spewing at you.
Yeah, it's like the equivalent of like someone throwing something at you from across the street. It's like, you just move out of the way. Like,
yeah, absolutely. You better say that. Just move out of the way. And sometimes when you don't think on the lines of someone else, or when you say something different, or when you come and you shake up everything that they know, you know, people don't like change. They're afraid of what they don't know or don't understand. So they criticize it, and it's okay.
That's a good point. Yeah. 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 Let's talk about your business for a bit. So obviously we mentioned it at the beginning of the podcast. It's the Freedom Love Experience. So it is a business. You got to make money. How are you doing that? Like, what kind of services are you? Obviously, you're offering coaching and stuff like that. We know that, but like, is it just that? Is there other things?
No, there's other things.
What is this company doing then? What's it all about?
So with Freedom Love Experience, of course, I do the intuitive readings. So I do the readings for people. You can do a 30-minute session, which is called a clarity session. That's you asking questions. You can do in 1 hour. That is me talking. And then at the end of that, I allow you to ask questions, because chances are I'll already speak on what you already had questions about, right? I also do the life coaching itself, which is to help you get on the path, help you to embrace you, to realize where you are. Most people don't even know what they want. So they don't know
I
what they
know
like.
that truth.
Yeah, they don't know what they like. They know what they don't like. They don't know what they like, you know, and they don't even know how to get started. Or they've had something that's happened to them that's so traumatic that they're afraid, they're still living in that moment, right? So I help them into seeing that in a different way. And then there is I work with plant medicines. So I love plant medicine. I'm a plant medicine person. I love mushrooms. Mushrooms are not legal in this area where I am. So what I use hape. Hape is a indigenous tobacco that goes in your nose. It's sacred. And when I tell you it cleanses all of this, it cleanses your mind and your heart. It allows you to get rid of things that you need to let go of. There's a lot of purging, you throw up. So I have hape journeys. And then I do retreats. In my retreats, it's we're going to do plant medicine with that. And there's another plant medicine when I do the retreats called Sananga. The eye drops, and they go on your eyes. And the thing about that, and it burns like a ooh-wee. But the thing about it is the more anger that you have in you, the worse it burns, or the more you resist it, the worse it burns. But it causes you to release things that you didn't even know that you were holding on to. So I do those as well. I may do appearances like a motivation, type of appearance for people. But those are the different things that I do within the company.
Awesome. And what would you say, because I mean, there's bound to be other companies offering similar things. Like, what distinguishes you from other businesses offering sort of similar services, offerings, etc.?
So what distinguishes me in that is there's no judgment. I love you. I'm going to give it to you with the best love that I have, right? And I think one of the other things that distinguishes me in that is I get down there with you, right? I genuinely want you to heal. So I get on the floor with you. If you're crying, I hold you. And it's because I listen. I listen to God. I listen to the collective consciousness. I listen to what it is that you need. And I think another thing for me is I don't just do it for the money. Mm-hmm. I do it because I just love people. And I genuinely want to see everybody flourish and everybody do well and everybody heal and everybody live in love. Mine is led by love. That's the biggest difference I can say. My whole entire business is led by love. It's guided. I have my quote. My favorite quote is, "I'm so in love with love." And I am.
That's beautiful. What would you say are some of your biggest success stories with your work and what you've done so far?
Ooh, I think one of my biggest success stories is I had a lady who had a stroke, and she wasn't able to speak. When she talked, you could tell you had to be able to hear her. And so I was told what to do for her, pray over her. I did what I was told to do in her healing, and I spoke to her and I gave her the message. And I don't know, I think a month later, she called me and left a voicemail, and she was talking, like speaking, just like how you and I speak. I understood her. That was the one that touched my heart more than anything, because it was just so, it was so healing, so cathartic for me, for her to be in that space. And then I've had people who, I don't know, all of them feel like success stories to me, because I've had people who they were so down on themselves, they doubted everything about them. And just from having this session with me, now they're flourishing, they're doing what they want to do, they're out, they've met a mate, everything. Like I've had people who go through that. So it's all of those, it's releasing that stagnant stuff. I don't know. All of mine are success stories to me, because if I see a change in somebody, I feel good. Everybody's change is different. Everybody's not going to be as big as somebody not talking and then now they're talking. right? Everybody's not going to be as big as that. That's a big miracle that you look for and you see. But it's the little miracles where if I've had somebody who could not get up out of bed, they were just that depressed. They didn't even want to get up out of the bed. Now they are out of the bed, having fun, living life. For me, that's a little miracle. You know what I mean? Like that to me feels good. Just to see some type of change in a person once they've spoken to me is good. And everybody's change is going to be different. Yeah.
What would you say are kind of like the biggest lessons that you've learned through, you know, doing what you do over the years? Like maybe some things that stand out as far as, and it could be like lessons in general or lessons just in terms of what you do. Like what are the biggest lessons you've learned with that?
My biggest lesson is don't look for the validation. Just do it. That's my biggest lesson, to not worry about what other people think. That's why I can teach others, because I was there. My biggest lesson is to don't worry about what other people think and don't look for the validation. Just do it. And as long as you're doing it from your heart, everything else falls into place.
Fantastic. What's the best advice you've ever received from another person?
The best advice I've ever received from another person is lean into my heart. Lean into my heart. Allow your heart and your mind to connect. Because our heart says one thing and our head is going to tell us something else. Listen to your heart, because your heart will tell you the right way to go. And I learned that lesson a long time ago, but that's one of the biggest lessons that I've ever heard. The greatest advice for me is to lean into my heart.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
As we draw things to a close for today, do you have any upcoming projects or maybe some final thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I do. So an upcoming project I have is we're doing open house. Well, I don't know when this is going to air, but we're doing open house on the 19th of March. The next is, the retreat. We're doing a spiritual retreat, unlocking the inner God and unlocking the inner goddess. So the God is the first weekend in August. That one, and then the goddess is the following weekend. It's open. Please reach out. You can find out all the information on it on Freedom Love Experience. It is where we're going to allow our spiritual self to fully evolve, embrace you where you are, move and where you need to go. It's just going to be amazing. I'm also doing one in September for couples. Right now it's the 3rd and the 4th, but if you go to the website, you'll be able to see that. But we're doing one for couples about reconnecting to each other. And I think that's important. Getting back to the love. And that's what it's called. And we're going to have couples yoga, ooh-wee, some intimate massages, ooh-wee. Because I do that too. I didn't say that, but I do couples therapy as well. So when couples are in a space where they are not, where the romance is gone, I help them to bring that back in by just changing things. Right. So I also do that as well. One of the main things that I would leave with people and say to them, well, first, my information, you can reach me at freedomloveexperience.com, freedomloveexperience.com, or you can follow me on the Freedom Love on IG at Freedom Love Experience, or me personally at Free Kinlow, FreeKinlow. And you can do the same on Facebook, all those things as well. All that's on there. But the one thing that I would leave with everybody is a quote, and this is my favorite quote in the whole wide world. Denzel Washington said this, and it says, "True desire in the heart for anything good is God's proof to you, sent beforehand to indicate that it's yours already." So the only reason why you have the desire to do something is because the way is already made for you to do it. It's already yours. You just have to align yourself with it. I love that quote.
Beautiful. As has this whole podcast been. It's been a real pleasure. So thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing a bit about you and what you do and everything in between. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure. I adore you. I think you're amazing.
Oh, thank you so much.
I really do. I really do.
Bless your heart. And yeah, a massive thank you to the listeners of the Christian Reeve Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. And as always, be safe, be well, and I'll see you in the next one.